The need and the desire for a top-class defensive midfield player has always been paramount in football, certainly in my lifetime over the past 37 years. Somebody that can break up play, an individual that can really knit the defense and the attack together, who helps at times to keep the tempo of a game motoring in the right direction, somebody that shields and protects that back line and makes it almost impenetrable. It's what everybody wants. Sometimes you get a player that can do it all. Often it's a combination of midfield players that enables you to have that balance you need. And right now, there is not an abundance of top-class DMs that are available to buy because they're already at big major clubs. Portugal have a new one, a young one coming through in Joao Neves. And of course, Man United are going to be linked to him. And what you'll probably find if you research and look at the wider mainstream media, every single club with a senior member of the Portuguese team is going to be linked with him. You may not find Man City as heavily linked because they have Rodri as an example and other options already in that position. But Man United will, predominantly because of Bruno Fernandes. You've got, of course, the Cristiano Ronaldo connection to our club and Dalot. That doesn't mean United are not in for him. Doesn't mean Man United will not go for him. But none of the stories surrounding this at the moment, none of the deals that the media are talking about are anything other than Bruno Fernandes being interviewed and asked about the player. And of course, Bruno has said he's a great player. He'd like him at Manchester United. But that's it. I know fans get excited with the agent Bruno nonsense. Listen, I watched him play a few times. I don't know too much about him personally, but don't get suckered into this news just yet. It's purely media talk. It really, really is. But does look a big talent, along with, I know he's a little bit older than Neves, but of course, Zubimendi as well. Been doing a lot of research and viewing a lot of his stuff in recent weeks since I was told to by you lot and by Lee Gunner on Straight Facts. And there are some really good up-and-comers. And as a Man United fan, I do want us to focus on that area. I want Sir Jim and his new team to focus on improving that area of the team moving forward. But what's also interesting when you look at this, by the way, smash like buttons if you haven't done so yet. Lots of news in this to go through. Lots of opinions of yours I want to understand. I want you to delve into and give me some of your comments are great. And I love you as a community, but I want more detail. I want more information. Big story that's also circulating today connected to Sir Jim is that Man United's new owner, Sir Jim Ratcliffe, it says here, will put himself on a collision course with manager Erik ten Hag if he tries to force the Dutchman to make his peace with Jadon Sancho. And what I find very interesting about this is how people are twisting this into he should stay out, when absolutely he should not. He should not. I understand you want to give your manager a certain level of autonomy, certain level of power. There will be some non-negotiables with him. And that's absolutely right. At the same time, though, Sir Jim Ratcliffe coming in and saying, listen, I want us to try and find an element of peace. I want us to try and resolve this situation for the best possible outcome for Manchester United. There is nothing wrong with that, and there is no Man United fan worth his or her salt that should be frustrated with it in any capacity. This isn't about defending Jadon Sancho and going, oh, maybe Sancho was right all along. This isn't about undermining Erik ten Hag. It's the new footballing regime at Man United taking control. We cannot sit here for a decade, in some cases, 17, 18 years in others, and blame the slow demise, the death by 1,000 cuts of Man United on the current ownership and sporting and footballing project, and then at the same time get annoyed when the new people coming in to fix it are taking control. That's what we should be wanting. So again, this story, again, is being used to try and split Man United fans, make us angry, but it shouldn't be. It's the right thing for us to do. Now, I want to move to North London now after touching there on Manchester United. I want to get your opinions on that as well, on Joao Neves. I also want to understand your thoughts on Sir Jim trying to broker this deal between manager and Sancho. Give me your thoughts. Moving to North London, there's a very interesting story that I want to move into. We're going to get onto the Arsenal done deal that's very close as well. But this involves Arsenal and it involves Tottenham and Chelsea as well. And this is a very intriguing story to me. This here says that Tottenham have dropped their interest in Ivan Toney. We'll get to the second part of this information, but they've dropped their interest in him, which is intriguing considering that Richarlison is a flop, Harry Kane has gone, Son is doing very, very well down the middle. And that's the interesting element, because it appears that they're going to try and stick with Son through the middle. We've done a fantastic job so far. It states that they're then going to go after the Barcelona and Brazilian winger Raphinha, who I don't think has necessarily had the greatest time at Barcelona, but we know he's a brilliant Premier League player, or an excellent Premier League player. Whatever word you want, he's brilliant, excellent, very talented. He's very good. He's very good at Leeds. And maybe the train of thought here from Ange Postecoglou is, well, if we're going to be rejected by Ivan Toney, which is what I think it is, by the way, let's just stick with Son up front, who's working, who's scoring, and let's add some quality on our flanks to help create more goals, help create more opportunities. And I think it's a great strategy from Ange Postecoglou. Now, Spurs fans, I want to get your thoughts on the idea of going for Raphinha, adding an additional inside forward winger. I'm not too sure what the right terminology is in 2023, but inside forward for me. They're not wide players. I don't look at them as wingers. They play so far forward now. They play off the striker. They're inside forwards. What do you think of that? And Arsenal fans and Chelsea fans, you both want Ivan Toney as well, or you're both heavily invested in him as a player, looking to get it over the line. Spurs pulling away. My gut reaction to that is Spurs have been told very unlikely. So Spurs are moving on. They've been told he's going to reject you for those other two clubs. That's why Chelsea and Arsenal are staying in, because they know they've got a genuine chance. And most of our clubs do that. It's not specific to Tottenham. It's not a diss at Tottenham. It's just the reality of the situation that's cut through the PR nonsense. When your club pulls away from a player it's interested in, 9 times out of 10, it's because the player's not interested anymore. Unless you have a better option. Maybe you will think, actually, Son up front is better than Ivan Toney, and Raphinha on the wing makes a lot more sense. You may believe that. That's fair enough. That's logical. Makes sense to me. The idea that your club just went, actually, don't fancy him anymore, I disagree with. But what will happen? Arsenal, Chelsea, we know Arsenal are the front runners, and I think this is great news for Arsenal with a team like Tottenham pulling away. It makes it easier. We know Chelsea are looking at him, but they've still got this conundrum of Victor Osimhen. What to do with this? Get Ivan Toney now, get those goals in. But are we missing out on the opportunity of signing the next best striker in the world? Somebody with Champions League pedigree, title-winning pedigree. I know there are also many that say that he's overrated and he won't deliver in the Premier League. You know, we have Lee Gunner on a lot who has that stance that however many goals you score in Italy, however many goals you score in the Bundesliga, divide it by, well, I want to say 3. If it's 2, I apologize. Divide it by 3, and that's what they'll deliver in the Prem. I understand it. I don't think you can just apply it willy-nilly to everybody, because some players from Italy, some players from Germany, some players from Spain, some players from Portugal, some from the Netherlands deliver straight away here and go to higher levels. Others regress. I kind of get that. I don't know the data and the body of work around how many players. I mean, a lot of our league is we're blessed with so many foreign players here, and so many do so well. So the majority of foreign players, it feels to me anyway, more of the foreign players do well than flop. So I don't necessarily think that because one player from Italy has flopped, that necessarily means that Victor Osimhen is going to. But Chelsea fans, what do you think about that? And if they're deliberating, does that open a bigger opportunity for Arsenal to step in and sweep to get that deal done? Is that deal closer to happening now? On top of that, there is talk that he may sign a new deal and stay until the summer. There's some that believe he may do that in honor of Brentford for kind of costing them a little bit this year. Even though they've had a good start to the season, they're still missing him. You'd always miss an Ivan Toney in your team. But money talks, and we will see what happens there. Now, in terms of the potential done deal for Arsenal, Fabrizio Romano has tweeted here that he understands negotiations between Arsenal and Ben White are on a new long-term deal continue, as the feeling remains positive since day one. He says it's not done yet, but in progress. All parties are very confident. When Fabrizio tweets information out like that, typically it means it's done and dusted, or it will happen. Every now and then, especially when it's a new deal, there's always going to be an anomaly. You'll always be able to find an example or two where it didn't come through in the end, where it didn't flourish as a story, but the majority of the time it does. Therefore, you take it as very credible indeed. And this is another one of those markers where I look at Arsenal and think they've improved so much as a football club. Now, I understand some of their fans will say, don't care, win the major trophies, and then I'll praise this stuff. But this is why I look at Arsenal as being a different beast now to at any point in the last 20 years. Since the invincible winning season until now, the way they're operating, this is the scariest I've seen them. Forget on the field and how they look and how they play. I'm talking about the way they are operating. Spending £700 million. Rewarding all their best players with new long-term, well-paid contracts to fend off rival clubs. These two things of spending big, being one of the biggest spenders, coupled with issuing these big contracts to keep players, in my personal opinion, was not a approach consistently undertaken by Arsenal at any point in I wouldn't say the last 20 years. They've been doing it for the past 2 to 3. So 17 years prior, I felt like it disappeared. All their best players seemed to leave. They never paid enough wages and players left, and they never quite spent enough. Remember all those, the chasings of Higuain's, the chasings of Luis Suarez's, all the stories that have emerged in the last 20 years of not getting Ronaldo, could have signed Zlatan, could have got Yaya Toure, blah, and it goes on and on and on. Eden Hazard, they could have got. I know there's some conjecture around how Chelsea actually paid the agent, but anyway, the point is, if they'd have offered more money, an extra 50 grand a week, an extra 5 million to an agent, and offer an extra 5 million, 6 million, 7 million to the club, they would have got some of these deals done. And who knows what else Arsenal could have achieved if they'd have behaved then as they are now. And it's significant. And I understand, I wouldn't call them the negative Arsenal fans, but the Arsenal fans that are still angry, that are angry that the Emirates was built and Highbury was knocked down, and the idea was to compete with the Bayern Munichs, to compete with the Real Madrids, to do what Man City are doing now. But it was never going to be plausible when you were cutting corners and not spending. And I called Arsenal out for, and this is why I have to support it, to try and not be a hypocrite. I called Arsenal out for years because they would celebrate having good net spend. They would celebrate having only the 5th highest or 6th highest or 7th highest wage bill in the league when coming 2nd and 3rd. We only got to the Champions League quarters. We only got to the Champions League semi-finals. But look at, compared to all the other teams in the Champions League, we only had the 10th highest wage bill. I used to think to myself, why are you celebrating this? I would be fuming with billionaire owners, spend more, and you'd have gone from 2nd and 3rd. You'd have gone from quarterfinals and semi-finals to champions. Arsenal in the last 20 years, in my personal opinion, if they acted then how they're acting now, anywhere between 3 to 4 more Premier Leagues, and they definitely, in the 20-year span, by the way, would have picked up a Champions League or 2. But it's been the lack of investment. So I look at it now and go, look, they've still got to deliver at the end of it. They've still got to start delivering, but they're behaving in the right way. And typically, when you're being run well and when you're behaving in the correct way and you're spending some of the highest amounts and when you're paying some of the biggest wages in football, it atypically in football yields excellent results. History shows us that. You don't need to be a football historian or a scholar or understand every facet of the game to get this. Just look at the evidence. It's empirical. It's there. It's almost undebatable, in my personal opinion. But I want to get your views. I want to get your opinions below. Smash like buttons, please. Make sure you're subscribing to the Football Terrace as well. Take care. Goodbye. God bless. And I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.